Okay guys, today I'm going to show you the simplest way to make this kind of effect in DaVinci Resolve. But beyond that, I will also explain some essential fusion principles, how nodes work and how they interact. Because without these foundations, you can't really use fusion effectively. You will just be following tutorials instead of truly understanding what you are doing. Okay, so here we are on the edit page of DaVinci Resolve. Now go to the effects library and go to effects. Drag and drop a fusion composition onto your timeline. With your playhead over the fusion composition, click the fusion tab. Inside the fusion page, we are going to add media in node. So shift space by media in. Then we will connect the media into our media out. As of now, it looks red. This is because when you look at the inspector over here, the media source is timeline, which means the media node is now grabbing itself. Therefore, it won't show anything. To fix that, click on it and then instead of timeline, choose background. This will pull a background from the edit page into the fusion page so that we have something to work with. Now let's make this one viewer so that we can easily get what is going on. Now, with the media node selected, let's add Gaussian blur. Shift space bar and Gaussian blur. Add it to the node 3. As you can see already, an image is already being blurred. Now, let's go to the inspector. If we increase the strength of the blur, you can see everywhere else is getting blurred. And when we decrease it, there is no blur at all. Okay, later on, we will come back to this Gaussian blur and why we are setting things up this way. But for now, let's continue. Now, with the Gaussian blur selected, let's add a rectangle node and then connect the output of the rectangle node to the mask input of the blur or the Gaussian blur. Let's increase the strength so that you can see the blur actually happening. When we increase the strength of the blur, this is what is happening. Now, let's add a background node. We can grab that background node from here also and connect it. But before we will be able to connect the background node, we have to add a merge node. The longer method is you grabbing the merge node from here. And then insert it and connect your background to it. The simplest way to do it is just to connect your output of the background to the output of the Gaussian blur and it will automatically connect to a merge node. Now, let's address this before we even move on because once you get this right, it will help you so many different ways working in Fusion. Why do we need a merge node before we even add the background? But when we added the Gaussian blur, we didn't use any merge node. Now, this takes us back to this particular toolbar. If you look at it closely, you will notice that here there is a very small vertical line separating a number of nodes from another. So basically, the nodes in the Fusion page are in different categories. We have images. Examples of images include background, fast noise node, text node, those are images. These are nodes that can create image or picture. So for example, if we grab a background node and we try to show it, let's enable our viewer. And we try to look at it in viewer, we can see it because it generates picture. We can change the color so it stands out for us to see it clearly. The same thing applies if we grab a fast noise node and we view it in the viewer. We can also see it, it's generating image. Now, text is the same. We grab a text. Yes, that we have to type something. When we grab a text and we view it in our viewer, and then we type, it is also generating picture. So this group of nodes are image nodes. Then when you look at this side, we have color corrector. We also have the color curve, the brightness and contrast, and also the blur. So this is the second category of nodes. They are called effects. Basically, what the effects do is to modify an image. The function of the effect is to modify an image. Someone may be asking, why are we talking about this instead of building the effect? Yes, we will build the effect, but if you don't understand certain principles, once we start building the effect, you might get confused along the way. I want this to be so simple that anytime you open Fusion and you see some nodes being connected to others, you understand why certain nodes are being connected to certain things and how they interact to produce a particular result. So now back to our explanation. So for example, you get an image, let's say background or text or anything. And when you pass it through an effect, which could be color corrector or blur or glow or anything like that, that particular effect will then change the look of the image. And take note of my words. I said when you pass an image through an effect. So what it means is images or an image can only be affected by an effect if that particular image passes through the effect. If the image doesn't pass through the effect node will make no changes to that particular image. So in this case, a media in is an image. It is passing through this particular blur, which is Gaussian blur. So it is blurring it. The image is passing through, so it is blurring it. Now, let's say for example, we place this particular blur. Let's disable this so you can see that we are not working with the rectangle right now. Now, let's say we are going to connect this particular blur, which is the Gaussian blur, to our media in, but we want the blur to affect the media in. If we do it this way and we have a merge node, it will not affect it. Why? Because that is another category of nodes that we have to talk about now. The merge category. So we discovered the image. They can create pictures. The blur nodes or categories, what they can do is to modify or make changes to an image that is passing through them. And now the merge. Here's the thing. Anytime you have images, it could be background, it could be fast noise, it could be text. Anytime you have any of these images meeting at a point, you have to tell Fusion which of the images do you want to place on top of the other. So the way you tell Fusion, I want image A to be on top of image B, is by using the merge node. So when you look at the merge node, let's grab the merge node here so that we have a clean area to really explain this. Because once you get this, you understand why when you connect certain things somewhere else it works, but certain other ways it doesn't work because you are telling Fusion different things. That's why you sometimes see what you want, other times to get because you are not getting what you want to see. When you look at this merge node, almost every node has at least two of these points that we see around this merge node. The most common ones you almost always see, this yellow triangle and this gray square. Now, this square, when it is a square, it is the output of that particular node. The square is the output of that particular node. And when it is a triangle, then it is the input of that particular node. So we name them based on the colors. In this case, we say the green input of the merge node. The output is most likely always gray, except you make different settings to your DaVinci or something. This we say is the yellow input of the merge node, and then the blue input of the merge node. Now, the green input of the merge node, when an image is connected to that green input, you can see it's named foreground, which means it is the image that will be on top. That is what you will see. When you connect an image to the yellow input of your merge node, it means you are telling Fusion to put that image behind, to place that image at the back. That will be the image that is the background. When we place our cursor over this particular blue one, you can see it has effect mask. So masks are also another category of the nodes. What do masks do? The function of the mask is to limit the function of a node. We will explain this more while we are moving forward. Just to be sure we are on the same page. Remember, when you are combining two images, you need a merge node. If you are using an effect, in order for you to see that the effect is actually making changes to your image has to pass through that effect. So in this case, if you connect the Gaussian blur to the inputs of this merge node, we will not see any result. The reason we are not seeing any result is because what we are telling Fusion is to place the Gaussian blur on top of this particular media in which is our image in the viewer. And because Gaussian blur is an effect and it can only make changes to an image that is passing through it, even though we have the strength up to 1, it still has no impact on this particular image because the image is not passing through the Gaussian blur. We are only placing the Gaussian blur over this image because from this we know we are placing it on top because this is a foreground, meaning we are telling it to be on top of the image. This is the background, meaning the image is behind. So for us to get the Gaussian blur to really affect that image, we have to get a media in to pass through the Gaussian blur. And the way to do that is to directly attach it. And now when we try to view it, you will see that the Gaussian blur is affecting our image. The other category we were talking about before are the masks. Why do we need this mask? As I was saying earlier, the mask limits the effect to only affect certain parts of the image. And when we connect this rectangle output to the mask input of the blur, what we are saying is a Gaussian blur only affects the shape defined by this rectangle. Only blur the area that is defined by the mask. That is why it looks this way. Will do its job. And now any changes we make to this mask is going to be exactly where the Gaussian blur will do its job. Now with this explained, I hope you can understand. So let's continue. Let's set our blur to 0.8. Okay, and now let's add another background. By now I'm sure you can understand why we need a merge node because we are using background node, which again is an image. And since we already have an image and they are going to meet at a point somewhere along our node tree, there should be a merge node to tell Fusion which image to place on top of the other. So now with this connection, we are saying, hey Fusion, make sure this media in is our background, which means it should be the image behind. And let this background be our foreground. Let it be the image on top. So now with that said, let's go ahead and define how or where we want it to affect our image. But before that, let's change the color to white. Let's now define the area where we want it to do its job. So as you guess it already, we have to use a mask node. But which mask node do we use? That depends on the kind of shape you want it to look like. So if we use this ellipse mask, it will look like a circle or it will be circular. So what we are basically saying is, hey, background, do your job only in the area inside this particular ellipse. If we use this polygon mask, that one will let you define which area you want it to affect. For example, we place the polygon, then we can make any changes, let's say here, 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 then we place it here, and we are defining a particular shape for it to do its work there. So in this case, we are going to use this particular rectangle. But instead of using another rectangle where we will have to be dealing with them separately, let's just copy this particular rectangle. That is Command C and paste it, Command V. But if we paste it as Command V, what will happen is we still have to do our stuff individually. So to just be more efficient, we'll just copy this particular rectangle. The same Command C to copy. And if you are on Windows, Control C. Instead of Command V to paste, we are going to do Command Shift V. And so we'll paste it as an instance. So what makes an instance node different from the regular node is that the instance node has all the information of the original node that we already made changes to. So in this case, when we control this original node, when we make any changes to it, it will also affect the instance node. As you can see in this case, when we move it up and down, they both move together. Unlike if we only pasted it as a rectangular node or as a copy. For example, this way, if we connect it and we make changes, you will see that, so that you can see. Let's disable this. You can see now when we make any changes to this one, it's not affecting the other. But when we connect the instance node to the background and we make any changes to our original rectangle, the instance node is also just a copy of it, so it has the same information. You can do anything and it will function the same way. Why do we even need this particular background? We are using this background just to give our effect this whitish look. We will then go to our merge node and put the blend all the way to about 0.1. Yeah, that's how set to get. But then if we enable or disable it, you also see it has effect. So with that on, this is the look. Off, on, off, on. So you can see it gives it this whitish look. Now let's add an outline or a stroke around this. The stroke we can use outer stroke, which will also give it a drop shadow, but we can control it and make changes to it. However, the simplest way is to copy this particular rectangle, Command C, then paste it as an instance, Command Shift V. So this is our second instance. We also copy this, Control C, then paste it here, connect this, and as you guess already, there's going to be a merge node because it is an image that we have to tell it either it should be on top or underneath. Okay, so now what are we going to do with this? We are using it as an outline. So let's actually call it an outline. That is F2 on your keyboard. Now, as we said earlier, an instance has all the information from the original node that we made changes to. So in this case, if you want to make any changes on this particular node, the instance node, but you don't want it to affect the original one, what you can do is to de-instance it. So in this case, those parameters we need to make changes to over here. We have to de-instance them. For example, this solid parameter, we have to make changes to it. If we don't de-instance it, when we uncheck it, you see everything disappears because they are all sharing the same properties. All these three rectangles, they are all sharing the same properties. So what we do to the other affects all of them. That's why we have to de-instance. That way we can change them individually. So how do we de-instance? You right click, then you select the instance. Now when we make any changes on this particular solid parameter, it will not affect the others. See that? But because we want it as an outline, it means we have to make use of our border width. We have to de-instance it also. And for example, if we don't de-instance it, any changes we make here will affect everything. So for us to avoid that, let's de-instance it. Right click, then de-instance. Now, when we make any changes here, it is affecting only this particular rectangle. And what are we going to do? What we are going to do is we are going to uncheck our solid. Uncheck the solid and then increase our border width. And we want it to be very thin. So maybe 0.001 or something. Yeah. We want it to be very, very thin. Yes, something like this. Very zero. You may not see it very clear here, but when you go to your edit page, you can still see it. And even this one still looks to me like it's still too thick. So I still have to adjust it a little bit. Or if I don't want to go any further, this is what I can do. Let's go to our merge, the merge tool, and then adjust this blend parameter until it becomes a very, very zero. Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah, where you can just see it, but not too much. Yeah, something like this is okay now. And if you want, that is it. You just made that particular effect. Yeah, so basically all you have to do is add a Gaussian blur to your media in. Define an area that you want the Gaussian blur to affect using a mask depending on the look you want. So it could be rectangle mask or ellipse mask. And after that, you then give it this whitish look, keeping the blend very, very small or very, very low. Yeah. And an outline. That is it. That's basically that effect. I hope this video was helpful. Now, if you want this particular effect, you can grab it in the description below. You will only use it on your edit page. I've made it in such a way that you don't have to come to the Fusion page before you can use anything. You can make any changes to the border width or the look or anything you want, just do with it all on the edit page. But if you have an image like this and if you want to make it a 3D image that looks like any of this on the screen, then watch this video next.